So Jumpstart is supposed to be primarily a reprint set, but how much value did we really get out of the reprints themselves? Let's take a look. What's up, Commander players? My name's Matt and you're watching Top Commander. So, looking at the Jumpstart product, which is primarily reprints. So, the reviews on this set has been a little crazy. I started off with the new legendary creatures that we can use as commanders, and talked a little bit about the reprinted legendary creatures that are coming in this product. Then I talked about the cards that were new that we could use in the 99. But the majority of this set is reprints, so that's why I'm doing a 3-part review, basically. But before I get into that, if you wish to support this channel, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support the channel directly, be sure to visit patreon.com/topcommander. And if you wish to follow me on Twitter, you can always hit me up at MattWallace19. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get through some of these. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think the total count for this set was supposed to be about 500 cards. 400, 500 cards. Basically, this set has more singles in it than your normal Magic set in general. Like, it has more cards in it than the core set or the regular, like, Theros Beyond Death or anything like that. So, needless to say, I'm not going to talk about all of the cards in this set, so I just picked out a couple that I thought were pretty interesting, just more of the notable ones. So, starting off with Cathar's Crusade, 3 generic, 2 white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. +1/+1 counter synergies, obviously. Definitely goes in any kind of token deck, swarm build, even an aristocrats deck can use this as a win con out of nowhere because you're constantly bringing creatures in and out of play. So, obviously that's just a good one. I'm not quite sure how much this card was getting up to. I believe it wasn't much more than the $5 range. I could be wrong, but then we have another reprint of Mentor the Meek. This one, they always need to make reprints of this card just so that way it doesn't get too expensive because white needs some sort of card draw. So Mentor the Meek is 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. So it's kind of very few ways does white have to draw cards. And that's one of the better ways. Depending on the deck, of course, especially if like it's a small white weenie token deck or something, Mentor the Meek is just great for it. Path to Exile, 1 white, instant, exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land, put it into play, tap, shuffle. This is just one of the better removal spells in all of Magic in general, actually, between Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. 1 white mana gets rid of a creature as long as you can target it. That's about it. But it exiles stuff for 1 white. That's the best removal we've got. Some of the best removal. Alright, so on to the blue cards. Coastal Piracy I pulled out because it was getting up there, actually, mainly because it didn't have a reprint for a while. 2 generic, 2 blue for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. If I'm not mistaken, I was looking at this card a while back and it was hitting like $10, $15. Maybe a little bit more, but that's because this card never had a reprint. So, needless to say, this set is doing some good because there's no reason that this regular blue enchantment that does this should be that much. because we have the other option of using Biden of Thassa. So, pretty good idea to have a reprint. Ristic Study, everybody knows this. 2 generic and a blue. Enchantment, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. It's the typical, every time your opponent does something, hey, you gonna pay for that? You gonna pay for that? I feel like the card is fine. It could be a bit annoying depending on how you ask. So, just try to work with your playgroup and find out what's the least annoying way to ask. Or, like, my brother literally just says, unless I tell you I'm paying for it, don't ask. Vidalcan Archmage, 2 generic and 2 blue for a 0/2 Vidalcan Wizard. I was actually surprised when I looked this card up. It was hitting $10, $15 at one point. Now, granted, it's the same cost as the red-blue Joyra from Dominaria, and it's whenever you cast an artifact spell, draw a card. Now, the Joyra says whenever you cast a historic spell. Mind you, Vidalcan Archmage is obviously an older card to begin with, needed a reprint, and Joyra is just another card that does the same thing for the same amount of mana, but with better stats. She's a 3/3, not a 0/2. But yeah, that's a couple of the blue cards. The black cards, there's a Black Market, 3 generic and 2 black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. Add black for each charge counter on Black Market. Okay, so this is basically a mono black ramp spell. Cares about it. Aristocrats decks obviously take very big advantages of this. 1 board wipe could just throw the amount of counters in this thing into like oblivion, depending on what kind of board wipe is used, of course. If it's Cyclonic Rift, no, that's not going to work. Now, if somebody Wrath of Gods blows up all the creatures, yeah, Black Market's going to get a little nutty after a minute. Exquisite Blood, I'm not sure which one was the more expensive part, but Exquisite Blood is part of the infinite combo with Sanguine Bond. Yes, Sanguine Bond, I believe. And it was literally just 2 cards. If you gained a life, you won the game with that. So Exquisite Blood is the 4 generic and a black for an enchantment that says whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Again, I'm not sure. One of the 2 pieces was hitting like $30, $40 easy. But it goes infinite with a Sanguine Bond. Now, they did not reprint Sanguine Bond, but if you remember the legendary creatures from M21, Vito, the Thorn of the Dusk Rose, he's Sanguine Bond on a creature. He's the other half of this, so as if we needed that. But, you know, if you find a way to beat somebody like that and flash it in without somebody not realizing it, I'm okay with it at that point. Because that's, shame on you and good on you, you got one over me. Alright, Ogre Slumlord, I thought was interesting for a reprint. 3 generic, 2 black for a 3/3 Ogre Rogue. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black rat creature token. He also has rats you control have Death Touch. So, I've never actually played this card before. I didn't know that this existed. I wish I did now, because I would totally I want a copy of that for my Mardu Aristocrats deck for that kind of token generation. Because 1/1 Death Touch rats sounds a lot better than just 1/1s or 2/2s. So I like the ability to have the Death Touch on the rats. Reanimate, 1 black for a sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. Reanimate's easily about a $10 card before this. It was getting up there in price. I'm not sure how much it's going down because of the reprint. I guess only time will tell on that one. But yeah, typical Reanimator card, and was part of the reason why I had a turn 2 Shieldred the Whispering one on me before in a game, which led to a turn 3 Jin Kataxis. Yeah, I'm a little scarred. Kind of causes nightmares from time to time. Speaking of causing nightmares, Rise of the Dark Realms, 7 generic and 2 black for a sorcery. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Now, this is a Reanimator spell that I've been wanting for a while, but I didn't really think was that expensive, because I never actually looked into it, but this is one that I was thinking about getting. Apparently this card was hitting like $25, $30. That's insane for a 9-mana spell. I mean, granted, if you've done right, it'll end the game, obviously, but that was just a little nutty for me. I was looking through the red spells in this set, and there wasn't anything really great as far as reprints that I could tell. Not that could be generically used for, if you're playing red, use this. The only one that kind of came to mind was Dualcaster Mage, but we had just gotten a reprint from him in the Commander Precons. So I guess they doubled down on his reprints this year, so I mean, I guess that's fine. I mean, he's always welcome for another reprint. 1 generic and 2 red for a 2/2 creature human wizard. Flash. Whenever Dualcaster Mage enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Yeah, that's just a pretty good card. If you're in mono red, you could technically flash him in and use him as a counter for a counter spell, because you redirect, you copy their counter spell and counter their counter. So it was just, yeah. Champion of Lambolt, 1 generic and 2 green for a 1/1 creature human warrior. Why would I be talking about a 3-mana 1/1? Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambolt's power cannot block creatures you control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of Lambolt. So you get this out early, and you just get a bunch of tokens out or whatever, and Champion of Lambolt becomes a 10/10 all of a sudden. And then it says that your opponents can't block with anything less than a 10/10. I use this in my Geared Conclave of Exile deck. This card is great. It's probably the MVP of my Geared deck. Next up, Craterhoof Behemoth, 5 generic and 3 green for a 5/5 creature beast. Has haste, and whenever he enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Craterhoof is just known to end games. He's probably ended most Commander games in the world since Commander has existed. In all honesty, let's face it, Craterhoof on a token field, okay, think about this, if you have like 12 elves because you're a mono green elf ball deck, you get 12 elves out on the field. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to drop a Craterhoof, and all of your creatures are going to get like +13/+13 and trample. If you can't close out the game from there, you got fogged. But yeah, Craterhoof was hitting like a $40-$50 for a while, so the fact that they finally reprinted him after all this time, good on them. Lurking Predators, I thought was just actually an interesting card. 4 generic and 2 green for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you may put that card on the bottom of your library. So, yeah, if you have a bunch of big creatures, it's just kind of a nice way to cheat some in. Oracle of Moldiah, 3 generic and a green for a 2/2 elf shaman. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. So you get 2 land drops each turn, just with Oracle on the field. You may play with the top card of your library revealed, so you have to show everybody the top card, no big deal. You may play lands from the top of your library. If you get mana flooded, Oracle just helps you get through that mana flood. And if you combine that with the newly reprinted Azusa Lost But Seeking, yeah, you're pretty set. It'll help you burn through a mana pocket, which happens every once in a while. Primeval Bounty, it's a reprint. It got a new art though. 5 generic and a green for an enchantment. This is just a card that I don't see a lot of people using. Whenever you cast a creature, create a 3/3 beast token. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life. This is just a really good value enchantment, and I don't see a lot of people using it. I mean, granted, if you're more on CEDH power level or higher power level, you're probably not going to see something like this. But more casual tables, I'm surprised that I don't see it that often. Ulvenwald Hydra, 4 generic and 2 green for a star Hydra. Has reach. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Now, whenever he enters the battlefield, search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. A land card, not a basic. Any land in your deck, it fetches onto the field, which would probably explain why the price mark on this was hitting like 10 or 15 bucks. I did not realize that until I had looked it up. Ulvenwald Hydra, again, it's not one that I see very often, and it's not one that I really considered until now, but, I mean, I think I've got a deck or two that could probably use this, but still, much needed reprint. Herald's Horn, 3 generic for an artifact. As Herald's Horn enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. So, card advantage, and a little bit of ramp for a specific tribe. Wizard, tribal, whatever. You know. Just a really good card. Herald's Horn, if I'm not mistaken, was hitting about $13 as well prior to the reprint. At least the last time I was looking at it. So, I mean, when you look at all these, and this isn't all of the cards in this set. So, and I might have missed a couple here and there. They even reprinted Phyrexian Tower, which I'm not sure how much that was up to, but, I mean, we got a reprint of it, which is something that we needed. Phyrexian Tower is a legendary land. Tap to add a colorless, or tap, sack a creature, and add 2 black. These are all things that we've needed in the game for a while. These are things that we've been asking for reprints in the game for some time. Especially Rhystic Study. Rhystic Study should not be as much as it was. Is it a good card? Yes. But we need reprints of these cards. Now, Coastal Piracy, when Bident of Thassa is like a bulk rare card for like $1 at your local game store, and you're like, okay, cool, I want that, but I want redundancy. So, how much is that Coastal Piracy? Is it also $1 rare? I'll take it. No, this one's $15. There are cards that, like, Grim Tutor got reprinted in M21 because it needed it. All because it didn't have a reprint for the longest time. That card apparently was hitting like $200. That's why we need reprints in this game. Reprints are so much more needed than ever before, especially when Magic is getting more and more popular. Commander is literally the most popular format to play. When new players are coming in, they are not wanting to spend an arm and a leg, so we need these reprints. So the fact that we're getting some of these reprints finally, I'm actually kind of amazed. So I would have to say, good job, Wizards. Hopefully that, I'm not going to be disappointed when I find out that Jumpstart has a short print on certain cards because of the way that the packs are set up, because it's 121 variations and blah blah blah. So hopefully they're not short printed or put into a scenario where I can't get certain cards. But I would say overall this is a great product if it holds to what it's supposed to be for. But that's all I've got for today. So with that out of the way, let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. Do we need more reprints? Is there anything that you think of that we need more reprints of? Let's start blasting the internet with this. Get the word out to Wizards. We need these cards as reprints. We need these cards to go down in price. And yes, I'm already aware, fetch lands. No reason why those should be so expensive. But let's not go on too much of a rant. We could probably do another video about that separately. But I'm going to leave it at that, and I will see you guys next video.